ton. And I think you're going to get better. So their attendance will go up. They'll be able to attract bigger free agents.
Right. Well, when you talk,
I think they're going to be, in the next, let's say, it's going to take them a few years, but they can get back to where they were.
Well, when you talk about some of the stadiums out there, though, Toronto still has their retractable. Milwaukee was brilliant when they ended up with theirs, and the Diamondbacks have one, and now I'm glad to see the Rangers getting one too. So, it's too bad a lot of them don't.
Houston's is. I mean,
right, that one too.
It just makes sense.
Yeah,
they need to do it.
In regards to the new stadium, Tony, we spoke about the Nationals earlier. There's a Texas native who is a free agent, third baseman. He's a world champion, Anthony Rendon. You know how teams like to usher in new stadiums? We saw the Marlins do that with Heath Bell, Mark Burley, and Reyes. You think the Rangers make a plea that, hey, we're going to do a new stadium. We want to get our heir apparent to Adrian Beltre because they didn't really have that in 2018 with Asdrubal Cabrera. Do you think they go after Rendon?
I think they're going to make a splash. I do. Whether it's him or not, he's from Houston. He's not from Dallas. There's a big difference. The two places hate each other. But, that doesn't mean he won't want to play in Texas. I bet he does want to play in Texas. Right. So, I do think the Rangers will make a splash along those lines. Whether it's him or not, who knows? He's a pretty low-key, humble Christian guy. I don't think he wants he might stay in Washington. He might go to I could see him going to not a so-called elite franchise, like a Rangers. I could see him going to Houston if they didn't have
Bregman,
who they have over there.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they trade Correa. Maybe they I don't know what they might do. But Houston's going to take a step back here. I think.
Tony, we live in a
Cole's gone. Verlander's on. He's in decline. I could see them taking a step back.
Tony, we live in a state that you used to live in. So, what are your thoughts about Major League Baseball in the state of Florida?
It could leave any time now.
Yeah, right.
I'm sorry. How many? The story was when I was at the Herald, it was like, baseball will go over big in Miami. The Latins, blah 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 blah. Heard it a million times. Yeah, just hasn't happened. Why? I don't know all the factors anymore. I haven't lived there since 1987.
Right.
So, I guess there's still a lot of the same, factors that were the same back then. It's not in the greatest area. Stadium I'm talking about.
Well, that's where the Orange Bowl used to be.
They just don't get the fans, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna. But I don't think they'll ever leave either. So I think Tampa has a chance to leave.
Yeah. Oh.
That I could see that.
Yeah, I'm well aware of the Marlins Park. It's a beautiful stadium in the wrong name. They should have had it in Broward County, but they didn't. But that's where I was just figuring, since you and I lived here back in the day, Lewis is here, part of the new generation that's here. And Tampa,
what is going on? Why don't they go?
The lease is 2027.
Well, I know there's a lot of animosity with the ownership.
Right.
It's understandable. Lewis?
I think, as far as the Marlins go, if you look back at their history, they haven't really had stellar ownership. Obviously, Huizenga traded everybody after 97, and David Dombrowski was the
that's what I'm talking about.
The puppet in that.
Not one, but two World Series teams that they blew up basically immediately afterward. You can't do that and expect your fans to hang in there. But go ahead.
Loria was horrible. Obviously, John Henry was the owner before him, and he went to Boston, and he took Liverpool with him and all that jazz. But Loria made that emotional plea to Stanton and gave him $325 million after he got hit in the face, and I'm glad Miami got that contract out of their hands, though I think a lot of our attendance went down with that. But I think it's just the lack of trusting the players. Do you realize that we Rule 5 drafted Cliff Lee and Johan Santana in 1997, and look at the careers that they managed to have? Yeah, they were derailed by injury, but we traded 3 Cy Youngs away. Like, come on.
And look at the outfield you recently traded away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
It comes down to ownership. I really think that's all it boils down to.
No doubt. Ownership is that's where it all starts. It really does. We've seen so many teams messed up by just owners who just don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, on the Tampa side, they're in a stadium that they're tied to till 2027. So they got about 2 or 3 years to get that straightened out. Forget the Montreal debacle, but they got about 2 or 3. That's what it takes to build a stadium. I've always thought, being a Tampa guy as well, since I have roots there, it belongs in Hillsborough County, not St. Petersburg, but that's another time.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, right?
Well, being a Tampa guy. So, Lewis, anything other questions you want to ask for Tony? I know you're an aspiring writer that wants to be a national writer. Tony, you want to give him any advice, or you want to ask questions? Go ahead, Lewis.
Yeah, Tony, if you were to give me any, tips, because again, my main aspiration is to cover baseball on a national level. I want to be on TV like a Rosenthal or Verducci, maybe have better hair than Tom Verducci, but that's pretty hard to do. But I mean that's been my goal ever since I was about 15, 16 years old. Just combine my love of baseball and take that on TV, and maybe I'll get to relay messages from Joe Buck.
There you go. It's so different now. I came up in the newspaper world. It's an entirely different world. I would get yourself connected with like Sabre. And, they produce a lot of kids who go into these, they go get into these front office jobs.
Yeah, I've had contact with Vince Gennaro in the past, who's one of the presidents there. Very good guy. I wrote a piece.
I'm a member, and I'm actually vice president of the Phoenix chapter out here. I know Vince. The national office is out here in Phoenix. And they're tied in with you're out of college, right?
Mm-hmm. I have my degree in communications from Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, they have the Arizona State has the Cronkite School of Journalism, and that's where the Sabre offices are, and there's a tie-in with them, and I know that they've gotten kids into like internships and stuff like that. What about MLB.com? Have you tried that internship program?
So I had an offer with the Miami Marlins.
On covering teams, and you basically you shadow the beat writer, and you get to cover a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. I had an offer with the Miami Marlins recently, but I had to turn it down because financially I wasn't going to be able to afford my expenses. I just got a new car. I have to, car.
Yeah, they don't pay you.
Yeah, it's nothing.
They're free internships, so to speak.
And honestly, I don't want to take advantage.
You get great exposure. A lot of those kids have now. Took their internship there at MLB.com, say covering like Fennick, who covers the Tigers.
Right.
He was he was the MLB.com intern, as they call him. He covered the D-backs one year, probably 6 or 7 years ago. Now he's covering the Tigers for the Free Press. I could probably name 5 or 6 more of those kids who've done the same thing.
All right.
That seems to be the way in now.
The biggest thing for me was I turned down an opportunity, obviously due to the financial restraints, but when Scott took a chance on me in May, and I'm not just saying this because he's right in front of me, one thing I preach is loyalty. I'm loyal to whoever comes into my circle, and I wasn't just going to drop this, especially now that I get airtime and I get to cover football games and I get to write twice a week. I get to do essentially everything I've wanted to do, and I've talked to some amazing people, yourself included, already. So I can't just drop something like that in regards to, in lieu of something that wouldn't even help me pay my bills. So I still get to work.
That's always the problem. It's not, I know it's harder than it used to be. There's no, I have a daughter, so I know it's a lot harder than it was for me to get to break in and get a newspaper job. Back then, I wanted a newspaper job. That's what I wanted to do. So, yeah, but it was easier. You could get it hired by a small paper, and you just kind of worked your way up.
And
it's probably still similar that way, although it's not a paper anymore. It's some internet site or something,
And that's where I'm trending. I can't just give up an allegiance for something that really wouldn't. It would. I mean, the push and pull there is that's a good foot in the door, but at the same time, I can't just get rid of this because this is really this has been my first big break, and I'm not.
That's true, but Scott wants you to succeed and move forward too.
Absolutely, but I'm not going to take the opportunity he's given me for granted.
What's that, Tony?
I said you want to push him forward just as much as he wants to move forward.
Yeah.
And if he gets some better opportunity, you're going to say, "Go get him, kid!" Right?
Oh yeah. I don't hold my kids back. Nobody ever held me back, and I would never hold him back. So I figure that what I'll do is he'll develop as much as he's able to develop. It'll be a tough love type of relationship. I've never been easy to work with somebody that's ever pushed me hard like you pushed me. But I want to make sure when they take that plunge that they do it and they're able to succeed at it. I don't want them coming back from me because they failed because they didn't have the right work ethic to do it. And, that's important. Hey, listen, I kid you not. You worked with me one-on-one and spent a lot of time with me when you were busy doing your thing. George Eichhorn and I did the air, and now at least he has a chance to be able to work in both on the air, develop his own niche as well as a writer. So, we appreciate loyalty, and that's what it's all about, is developing somebody that has a good attitude. I can't teach you a work ethic, Lewis, just like Tony couldn't teach me one. But when I was out of line, Tony was nice enough to say, you need to do better in this area. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. And it's about accepting teaching is what it is, and have the work ethic. If you don't have either of them, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. No, totally.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's about opportunity now. I don't think there's as much opportunity as there used to be. I might be wrong about that.
No, I think you're right. There's so much more competition.
There are no more newspapers to go to, so
right.
Now you just got to go to the internet sites, I guess. It is tougher.
Oh yeah, and it's even tougher these days.
I would say this: find what you love and just go for it. That's the only way you're going to have the fortitude to push through it. You got to really love what you're doing.
Right. If
you don't like what you're doing, you're not going to want to give I'll use the cliche, 110%. You know what I mean? So love what you're doing. That's the number one thing.
I think it's tougher, Tony, these days than what it was when you and I were in the industry, because everybody's doing a podcast.
Yeah, so in that respect, I do feel bad for kids coming out of school today. Where are the jobs?
Right. But that's why I relish the challenge of trying to make this whole thing work, and that's why I think it keeps me. I mean, listen, I'm 57 going on 90 according to my doctors, but I really don't care if I get 3 hours of sleep. It's just the ability to go out there and see it through anyhow, the way we have to do it. But you've meant everything in the world to me, but now you really got my wheels turning about us debating the rule changes over at Chandler Stadium Club. So we're gonna have some fun.
You can debate these forever. They're gonna do what they're gonna do, but I just have my thoughts on them.
Me too. Well, it'll be good. We're gonna have a lot of fun and take it a couple of games. But I'm glad that. Listen, we look forward to having you when we actually create our baseball show, probably in the next few weeks. So we're gonna get this thing off the ground. We want you to be a part of it once in a while, if you don't mind coming on.
No, don't mind at all. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so any final closing thoughts, Lewis?
No, I mean, listen to our show tonight, Sports Exchange on Spreaker, iTunes Podcasting Network, wherever you get your podcasts. We're broadcasting from 8 to 11, and it'll be a good show. Tony, obviously, was always fun to talk to you. I love talking some Hall of Fame with you and Scott. Obviously, I know it's nice to have somebody who agrees with me about Bryce Harper. But, yeah,
It's okay.
I always love hearing new perspectives, so it was really, I had been waiting for this really ever since I started. The first phone conversation.
That's why we're fans, man. Everybody gets to have their opinions.
Right.
First conversation I ever had with Scott, he mentioned your name about 36 times, so I was excited ever since to get the opportunity to speak.
He's giving me way too much credit. I helped him out when he was young, and he took it from there.
Oh, DeMarco, save it, man. Giving you way too much credit. I don't think I still ever give you enough credit. Please, man.
Whatever.
No, I don't know, but then again, you got to...
Time to wrap this show up.
Well, we are. But meanwhile, Tony, thanks for being on the program, and I'll give you a call really soon, and we can talk about when you come back on here again. But meanwhile, it's been a pleasure spending an afternoon with you, Tony. So,
yep, my pleasure too, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Tony. Have yourself a great rest of the day, and we'll talk soon. Okay, brother?
Take care.
All right, looking forward to seeing Arizona. It'll come pretty quick, pal. Mark my word.
Yes, it will.
So looking forward to hanging out with you at the Stadium Club. So on behalf of Tony DeMarco for the Sports Exchange special, this is Scott Morgan, Motor City Madmouth, along with the kid,
Louis Adio Weiss.
Have yourself a great Thursday, and we will talk again later. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
All right.